I'm very honored to have Jessica Bland here, the head of research from the Dubai Future Foundation. Hi Jessica, and welcome to Mad Talks.
Thank you.
In a nutshell, what is the Dubai Future Foundation for those of the viewers and listeners who have never heard of it?
The Dubai Future Foundation was started last year in April, so we're almost a year old, and it was spun out of the Prime Minister's office here in Dubai as an initiative to bring together the very cutting edge of technology and the kinds of missions that governments have to improve our education, to improve our health, to improve our lives in general. How can we bring those two things together in an innovative way?
So how do you bring it together?
That's a very good question. We have a couple of different programs we run. Sometimes we bring companies from around the world to Dubai to meet parts of government that work in their area. For instance, you might bring a company thinking about new kinds of solar panels in to meet our energy and water authority. Or we actually work with entrepreneurs in the country, providing those capacity building skills for them to be the industry pioneers of the future.
So you're a networking company, basically.
Yeah, we work in three different ways. So we bring new knowledge in. We do one of my main jobs is a research behind the scenes, understanding which technologies are really taking off, which might be overhyped, where Dubai might have a particular strategic advantage. We then work as a broker, making partnerships happen locally and globally. And finally, we actually invest and do pilot projects ourselves. For example, I work in a 3D printed office. It's the first 3D printed office in the world and one of the first functional 3D printed building. We invested in this technology ourselves and actually brought that technology to life here in Dubai rather than just writing a paper about it or brokering a partnership.
Once that 3D printed office is printed, is it any different to any other office, or is there a different feel to it?
I mean, I must say it feels quite different to a lot of buildings in Dubai because it's only one story. So I have green outside my windows, I have cats and birds and flowers, which is different from being on the 51st floor. But actually from the outside, you couldn't tell that it's 3D printed. Some of the giveaways are the fact that it's an interesting round shape rather than square. You can build using unusual shapes when you 3D print things. And there were no pillars in the middle to reinforce the shape. The shape holds itself up. So it looks like a little bit futuristic, but it's a big white concrete building underneath it all. But it's really in the shape and the way it supports itself that you notice the new technology.
So what does it say about a foundation that is looking at the future and predicting it and giving advice to the UAE and Dubai on how to deal with that future or how to shape it? What does that mean? If you sit in a 3D printed office, there will be no more skyscrapers as we know them, and in the future we'll only live in 3D printed houses and apartments?
Yeah, I mean, I must say I wouldn't expect the whole of Dubai to look like our office in 30 years' time. That would be a fairly unimaginative version of the future. Actually, we see it much more as a pilot project. We learned a lot of lessons along the way from creating that building. We learned a lot of kind of very basic things about how you put wiring and electronics into a round-shaped building rather than a square one. So we're not saying that this is the future, but the idea is to actually bring to life ideas and then ask interesting critical questions about what worked and what didn't work about that, and work to create better visions of the future off the back of those projects.
One of your initiatives is the Dubai Futures Accelerators program. What is that?
So the Accelerators program brings government entities, so that could be everyone from Du or Etisalat, the telecommunications companies here in Dubai, through to the Road and Transports Authorities, Dubai Holding, the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, together with amazing, fast-growing companies from around the world for 12 weeks, or actually 9 weeks for this second program we have running right now. And it pairs them together to answer particular challenges in their area. So that could be, how do we produce water in Dubai with much, much less energy? That's Diwa's challenge.
That is a very good question.
Very good question, especially for a country that has so much energy provision right now, but is moving to a future where that energy provision will be more strained. And they work with companies over those 9 weeks to come up with new solutions. So the accelerators, they're really great at, instead of just importing products from overseas, actually bringing those people with the great ideas, getting them to work with locals to produce new products together.
So basically creating the knowledge, the know-how, and the infrastructure to change the future.
To change the future, to shape the future. as His Highness Sheikh Mohammed would say, that Dubai needs to be the place that starts to shape the future as opposed to just importing images of the future from elsewhere.
So how does the future look like? And I'm asking you as I think you are a futurist. I don't know what that means exactly, but I think that means a person looking at the future and predicting it. So I want to hear from you. How does it look like?
Yeah, you're right. Part of my everyday job is to keep abreast of developments in technology. So I have a sense of where things are really taking off. I think the area that I'm most interested in at the moment is we're bringing together biology and computing capabilities. So we've had this great revolution in data and algorithms, and on the other hand we've seen genetic technology improving greatly, but we can imagine in the next 15, maybe 20 years, not just quite yet, bringing these two things together. So I'll give you an example. We can now implant computer chips into paralyzed patients' heads and allow them to operate prosthetic limbs just through thoughts. And this kind of incredible mixing of computers and biological material. And I just feel like there's a lot more to come in that area. The opportunities are as big as our imagination in that space.
What's your prediction in about 30 years from now? How much energy, and that's a big topic here always in the region, how much energy will be sourced through renewable energy?
Well, Dubai has a 2050 plan for energy, so I wouldn't want to go against that, but there's certainly a move towards solar power, and we see that with the research and development projects that are happening in Dubai, including the solar park that's developing very quickly. Solar for sure will be one of the key renewables here, but we may well see other things coming on board like wind power and wave power eventually too.
The future of jobs is changing while the future is shaping, and I wonder, how can I make myself fit for this future that is coming towards me at a rapid speed? I'm wondering, what I'm doing today and the knowledge I have with, operating my computer or my iPhone, will I be fit to compete in this, in the job market in 20 years from now?
I think it's a question that worries everyone, particularly parents nowadays. Does our education system get people ready for the jobs of the future? I think one thing that is sometimes talked about is how machines are taking over some of our roles. So that could be roles in factories, or actually more and more things like scanning legal documents like lawyers used to do. And there's some worries about robots taking our jobs. But actually there's another trend at the moment we're seeing in people who are talking about the future of employment, and they asking a slightly different question. They say, how do we work better with machines and robots and algorithms? How do we create new jobs where you work side by side with that machine as opposed to that machine taking your job? And what really interests me there is that some of the key skills are analytic, scientific kinds of skills, but they're also people who can think about whole systems. So they look at a whole factory and say, okay, how do I put the robots together with the humans? How do I use those skills here and those ones there? And so as much as I push for science and technology, and I think we will need more people who are qualified in those areas, we will also need people who understand how to make that knowledge useful in the real world, how to work with machines rather than just build them.
What advantage does the human mind have over a machine, a robot? And will always have,
it
not
will
just
always
now.
have. I mean, one thing I find interesting is the idea of empathy, and that idea that humans work together and they have a feeling for how each other are thinking and operating, that it's very hard to turn into machine-readable material. It's very hard to write that down and turn it into a program that a machine could then use over and over again. And I think those kinds of soft skills and ways of understanding how to get groups of people to work together, I haven't seen any machine that's able to take those over anytime soon.
I want to ask you about the future of jobs again, and while you said empathy is an important skill to have, and I find empathy and emotional intelligence is one of the most important things that I have to teach my child. What can I do today to lay a foundation where my daughter, who's today 3 years old, nearly 4, in 20 years from now when she enters the job market, what do I teach her today to make her fit for tomorrow?
So one of the things that we've been thinking about hard as part of our Dubai Future Academy program, so our skills and training program as part of the foundation, is what some of those capabilities are. Maybe not for 3 and 4 year olds, but maybe when she gets to 19 we can have a discussion about it. And a lot of it is empowering people to shape their own future. If we're going into a 21st century where there are lots of global challenges, lots of potential for disruption in our lives, we don't really know where things are going. We can talk about particular industries, but overall we don't know what the shape of geopolitics, technology, etc. will look like in 30 years' time. So giving people the ability to be agile, to feel empowered and confident to shape their own their own industry, perhaps become an entrepreneur, perhaps set up their own division in a company. I think those are some of the key things we'll need in the next generation that maybe we didn't 30 years ago when people worked more often in large companies where the direction was set by someone else.
Today you're the head of research at the Dubai Future Foundation. So how did your career start?
My career started actually as a journalist.
Good on you, so did mine.
But I was writing specifically about science and technology, and I moved from communicating about that to working in government policy in the UK, in Europe, and then globally. And then I moved to Dubai actually to move to an interesting state that's moving so quickly, and to understand how you bring together government and technology policy in a totally different context to the ones I was used to before.
So that wouldn't have been possible in the UK?
In the UK, we don't have the same kind of visionary leadership and visionary statesmanship that we have here. We have other things. We have vast numbers of civil servants working on lots of things at once, whereas here it's a much smaller, leaner government. But it was, at the moment in Europe particularly, things are moving quite slowly. I mean, Brexit, etc., made that job. Things were moving over periods of 18 months or 3 years, rather than here they move over 18 days or 30 days. And I wanted to go somewhere where I could really come and shape the policy day in, day out, rather than over these longer time spans.
How do you, in your everyday life, make a difference? Because that's what we talk about here at Mad Talks. MAD, make a difference. That's what it stands for.
The way I think I make a difference as head of research at the Dubai Future Foundation is by bringing in the best of the world's know-how about the particular technology trends or challenges we want to talk about. So instead of just reading an article in the newspaper about the latest technology, I spend some of my time ringing up the experts in that and asking them really what's going on. And this person said this and you said that, bringing that deep knowledge to Dubai so that when we make decisions about investment, about where we're going to make an effort to shape the future, we're making it in an area where we really can make that difference.
Another question that, I don't know if you can answer that. Hyperloop, is it coming?
You'll have to ask Hyperloop One.
I will.
They're very good friends of ours and they're excellent project, but it's moving so fast I couldn't tell you where it is right now.
Jessica Bland, thank you so much for joining us from the Dubai Futures Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.